Kia ora guys, welcome back to the Black Jersey. It's your boy Max, I'm the host of the channel. Once again, a big thank you to my patrons. Today I've got a very special guest on my channel. I've got Hakatime Rugby, who kind of encouraged me to get involved with YouTube and things like that, because I was watching his channel back when it was blowing up, things like that. So Zach from Hakatime Rugby, cheers for joining me, bro.
Kia ora, Max. Kia ora, everyone. Glad to be here. At that point in time, though, Max, I was really impressed by the work you were doing on Instagram. You know, you were right in amongst it. Obviously, I enjoyed your content. So it was just a natural thing for me to say, hey, man, you should get involved in this YouTube thing and so kind of support you in doing that. And you've done it and you're blowing up. So well done, man.
I was like, oh, I don't know, but here we go. So yeah, guys, today we're going to be talking about the All Blacks versus Ireland. As you can see, I went to the game on Saturday, hence why you're seeing this video on a Monday. So we've got a fair few things to say about it. We did the first part of it over on Zach's channel, Hakatime Rugby, of course, so make sure to check out part one. Now that you're here for part two, we're going to kind of do a bit of a deep dive, discuss the individual performances of the players. And before we start, though, I want to say a big thank you to my patrons. Zach, what did you think about George Bauer, the loose head prop, to start things off?
Yeah, just generally, I thought it was a sort of a mixed bag in the scrums. So overall, you know, there was large phases that the Irish got on top, but Bauer was able to hold his own in portions as well as, you know, at the breakdown. There was some great work that they did. So I gave Bauer a 6 overall for his performance there.
Whereas for Andrew Porter, the Irish loose head prop, just so you guys know, I'll talk about the Irish players. Zach will talk about the Kiwi players. Porter was probably outplayed in scrum time. Ireland won just 3 of 6 scrums, so I think that Porter probably has to drop a bit. Like, he did good work around the field. He was generating some decent ruck speed, but a 4 out of 10 is probably the best I can give him after that kind of scrum. We'll move on to the hookers now.
Yeah, so Taylor, bit quiet by his standards, I thought overall. So, you know, I gave him a 4 originally. I'd probably weight that slightly higher to a 5. I mean, there was some pretty good work in the line out, and as I mentioned before, breakdown in general was pretty good. So you can probably go between 4 and 5. Let's be generous and go 5.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's just one of those things. Not everybody can have a brilliant game. Speaking of a very good game, though, Dan Sheehan probably demonstrated he deserves to be Ireland's second choice hooker behind Ronan Kelleher, who's injured. Sheehan was running pretty hard with ball in hand and was the team's top carrier with 14. Pretty good defence as well, so I've given Dan Sheehan a 7 out of 10.
Moving on, do you want to go to Tuangafasi next? I can touch on him.
Yeah, definitely, mate, definitely.
Cool. So Tuangafasi, he did go down, obviously, with potential injury for a while, but he toughed it out after that. As we mentioned earlier, great work at the breakdown, mixed bag in the scrum. So I gave him a 7 overall. I thought he showed actually a lot more impact than he did in the Super Rugby final. So well done to him.
Zach. I couldn't agree with you more. I think with some decent locks behind Tuangafasi, we could see the best of him far better. Whereas Tide Furlong, not so much. You know, I've often said he's the best tight head prop in world rugby, but that game's probably not a vintage one, and so I'm going to give him the same rating as Porter, a 4 out of 10. We're going to move over to the locks now, and we had Brodie Retallick at 4, so we'll get what Zach thinks about how Brodie Retallick performs now that we're moving on to the locks, guys.
For the locks, I thought the line-out was very good. Retallick showed good mobility around the field. You know, good work at the breakdown as well, so I rated him a 7.
Whereas Tyburn, thoroughly outplayed by Retallick. Throughout the whole game, I actually, to be totally honest, forgot he was on the pitch. I named him in my Six Nations team of the season, but this time around, I think he got bullied pretty badly up front, and 6 tackles from 64 minutes probably doesn't cut it at test level I gave Byrne a 3 out of 10, as he was perhaps picked on a fair bit in the lineouts. We'll go over to the number 5s. What did you think of Sam Whitelock, Zach?
Yeah, Sam Whitelock, again, the line out was operating really well. They were able to steal a few off the Irish throw, disrupt, the flow there for Ireland. So I gave him a 6. I thought, the locks in general were pretty good for the All Blacks and worked well together.
Whereas I'll probably give the same rating to James Ryan, not Sam Whitelock. Ryan was pretty constrained on attack, but he did make twice as many tackles as Byrne with 12. Did show a bit of leadership after Sexton came on. Pretty much the same as Whitelock. We just saw like a kind of above average performance, if you know what I mean. Over to the loose forwards, we've got a fair bit to touch on. And I think Zach's probably going to be the expert rather on what was going in these tight spaces since he got to see it on TV.
Yep. So a lot made about Scott Barrett, obviously, in the lead up to the game, whether it was the right selection or not. I thought he went well overall. Nothing too flashy, but he held up his end of, his responsibilities. He was physical. He was good in the breakdown. He created trouble at line-out time as well. So I gave him a solid 7 for that performance.
Good on you, mate. That's the kind of stuff I'd want to see from Scott Barrett after what everybody was giving to him, because I think that Scott Barrett really proved a lot of doubters wrong. Perhaps Peter O'Mahony did as well for Ireland. With Sexton off, there was no clear leader, and the selection of James Ryan as a captain at the end of the year in 2021 was perhaps undermining the opinion of Andy Farrell on O'Mahony, but he really stood up in this game, I think. He was pretty much everywhere, like 27 metres with ball in hands. 10 passes is a fair bit for a flanker. 10 tackles is pretty good to see as well. So I'll probably give a 7 to O'Mahony as well, just like how Zach did for Scott Barrett. Over to the open sides. What do you think of Sam Cane, mate?
Sam Cane put in a Sam Cane performance, right, which is not a lot to write home about, but let's just say he didn't lead the team down. So I rated him a 5 out of 10. He just doesn't give you much more than sort of, reasonable defense, good defense, let's say, get stuck into the breakdown, but not a huge amount more than that. So 5 out of 10. Yeah,
Sam Cane, I think his selection's just more about tactics and the tight channels than anything, eh? Josh van der Fleer, on the other hand, was Ireland's top tackler with 18, whereas he did also run 16 metres compared to Sam Cane's 0 metres. So I have given Van der Fleer a 7 out of 10, as he was quite a hard worker in a team that let us down quite a fair bit.
And over to Artie. So he was my player of the game. I thought he was outstanding. And that was a really good contest between him and Caelan Doris. Caelan Doris is a real young, athletic, up-and-coming, number 8. These two are going to go at each other for many years to come. Artie definitely got the better of him here. So 9 out of 10 for that performance.
Savia was pretty immense, mate. I couldn't agree with Zach more there, guys. Artie Savia was probably player of the match, whereas Caelan Doris is very talented, but I'm not sure if he's ready, I guess, to be a key decision maker for the team. Got just 2 carries and confined to 6 metres. So really, his attack just wasn't shining too much after picking Scott Barrett to man-mark him, shut him down a fair bit. I mean, 11 tackles is a pretty nice effort, but he got hooked after 56 because they needed more of an all-rounder. So I'm just going to give a 5 to Caelan Doris. It's pretty much the same things that Zach had to say about Sam Cane that I'm saying about Doris. He'll learn from this. He's young. It's all good. Over to the backs. What did you think of the performance of Aaron Smith, Zach?
Yeah, Aaron Smith was generally pretty good. I mean, there was a lot of disruption at the All Blacks breakdown in key areas there. So, but he obviously had that wonderful break up the middle of the field, which led to Artie Savia's try. So I gave him a 6 for that. You might be able to give him slightly higher, 7, but, I landed on 6 out of 10 for Aaron Smith.
I mean, fairly so. What you need from Aaron Smith at this stage of his career is just to have an experienced player who can come along and just deliver what the coaches are after. Jamison Gibson Park is achieving similar things to Ireland, except he made a lot more passes and they were far quicker. And he was getting his team off the line really, really well, particularly in the first half. I think he was probably Ireland's best performer. I'll give him an 8 out of 10. Whereas we move over to the first fives, Zach's previously said to me that he thinks Bowden was the best 10 in the world. What has your opinion on that matter changed since you said that 2 years ago, mate?
2 years ago, Max. 2 years ago. Don't hold me to it. I feel like the Super Rugby final was a pseudo trial match. Mo'unga got the better there. In this game, though, so to me, Mo'unga is the best 10 the All Blacks have. Barrett's here played solid. I think, he was able to organise the attack quite well. But I gave him a 7 out of 10 for his performance.
Bowden was by no means world class, but once again, he came up and did the basics. This time, though, he was the only player in the All Blacks I feel that actually constructed a try. So, Zach's probably correct on this one here. Johnny Sexton, however, we can't say a lot about him, guys. I'm going to be frank with you. Though he didn't do much himself, I think that the removal of Sexton from the field damaged Ireland's psyche a fair bit. For what he did do, 6 is probably all I can give him. Well, over to the outside backs, what do you have to say about Leicester Anuku?
Kind of tough to rate this one. He didn't have a lot of opportunities is one way you can look at. I noticed that he had a slightly lower work rate than he typically has at Super Rugby level, wasn't out there looking for work as much. So still finding his feet in the All Blacks jersey. Because of that, I gave him a 5 out of 10. He didn't let the jersey down, but he didn't get as many opportunities as we would have liked to have seen.
It's all good. He's young. He'll get some more later on, I'm sure of it.
That's right.
James Lowe, man. I'm going to have to give Lowe a 5 out of 10 as well. Everyone may have a bit of a cry and get angry at me because he made 48 metres and beat 2 defenders from 11 carries, but Sevu Reece had a fields day with Lowe's defence, and he did come in as an extra distributor, but handling errors did come through from Lowe as well, so he just had a real mixed bag of a performance, if you know what I mean, guys. Like, he was hot and then cold so many times throughout the match. Righto, over to the midfield. Quintu Paia.
Quintu Paia was quite involved, obviously, in a lot of those tries. So, there was a break for Leicester Anuku, which was that nice quick pass from Quintu Paia, scored one himself. So overall, I gave him a 6 out of 10. I thought really good performance, solid performance from him. And he was involved in a lot of that positive play that the All Blacks brought.
Bit of a solid rather than spectacular event. Yep. You could probably say the same thing about Robbie Henshaw. Though he did beat 3 defenders, and make 2 clean breaks, he probably didn't do enough as an individual. He was just a single cog in a machine with many, if you know what I mean. It was just a slight above average game for Henshaw, probably the same as Tupaia, though Tupaia's reputation is going to increase a lot more than Henshaw's after this due to the difference in their experience.
Agreed. Moving over to Rieko Ioane, I gave him sort of similarly to Tupaia, solid, without being spectacular, probably a little bit less involved than Tupaia was. So I gave him a 5 out of 10 for his performance.
Yeah, a lot of people are probably going to get angry at that one again. But hey, Rieko is a centre. He does have to do more than defend because typically the backs are the ones who are running the attack. The forwards are the ones running the defence. He did make 2 try-saving tackles, but that was kind of all he really did as an individual, Rieko Ioane, whereas Gary Ringrose, I think, was probably one of the more impressive performers in Ireland's lineup, made some monster hits on defence. He caned Sam Cane. Though he'll be unhappy with the missed tackle on Ardie Savia, there probably wasn't much else he did wrong. Was pretty threatening over the line, and considering how good the All Blacks defence was, 45 metres ain't shabby, eh? Moving on to the wingers, once again, Zach, how do you think Sevu Reece went?
Sevu Reece, dangerous when he was involved, obviously made that great breakaway off turnover ball and try. I gave him a 7 out of 10. I thought of the back line, he was the sort of highest work rate of those that were kind of involved in the back line.
I mean, when he runs 100 metres, you can't exactly, talk him down at all, can you? Keith Earls, didn't make as many meters as Severis, but with Mac Hansen out, as I said on Zach's channel, remember to go check him out, of course. As I said on his channel, with Hansen out, Earls is probably an appropriate selection. He didn't get a lot of ball, but he delivered. It's a 6 out of 10, just a slightly above average. Not a lot there, but what he did do, sure, he did well. Over to the fullbacks, Zach. Geordie Barrett, I've rated very highly as of late. But what did you reckon of how he went tactically?
Tactically, he had a number of kicks out on the full. I thought his high ball work was a bit of a mixed bag. And Ireland do a great job of contesting, the infield high ball, which they did. They managed to get a couple of results against him there. So not his best game, I thought. And I am a big Geordie Barrett fan, but I give him probably a generous 5. I was tempted to go lower just on some of those errors that he made, but let's say it's a middle of the road 5 by his high standards.
Geordie, I think he's just such a classy player. As I screamed out in the stadium, he's the best Barrett, but he was hot and cold, just like James Lowe was. So I think you're probably right to do that. I must say, though, Hugo Keenan was definitely outplayed by Geordie Barrett. Like I've said many a time, he's an accurate tackler, but as I've exposed in a couple of my deconstructions of tries previously, he can leave a bit of open space. Perhaps that's got something to do with the 13-man main line, but perhaps it is Keenan once again. He's not quite at Carney's level, and I think Ireland are lacking a proper tradesman fullback like a George Furbank to have at 15. Furbank's not that good for England, but he'd be a far better pick for Ireland than England. Like Keenan fails to generate any genuine counterattacks, and just 27 metres off 6 carries, it's not ideal considering his teammate had a 60-plus possession rate for the second half, so I'll have to give Hugo Keenan a 4. Zach, I'll let you have a bit of a discussion on the bench. Is there anything you've got to say about how the All Blacks bench performed, mate?
Yeah, I thought the All Blacks bench actually brought a lot of good energy. There was that time shortly after halftime where Ireland obviously came out to play a lot more physically. They started to get more momentum, and then they started to both threaten with the number of tries being held up, but also score tries early in the second half. So it required a real momentum swing, and I thought they did exactly that. Toke Aho, and I can go one by one or just go straight through them, but I thought Toke Aho, he's not far off surpassing Cody Taylor as the best hooker in the game, I think, if not already. Tui Nukuafe was able to hold up his end of the scrum, although he was sort of, I think it was a card late in the game. Ta'aval was mobile with ball in hand. Sawakula mixed bag early on, came back well to score that try. We'll get plenty of opportunities. And then Dalton, Christie, Richie had limited opportunities, Braden Enor as well, limited opportunities. So I thought they brought real energy when they did come in off the bench and started to wrestle the momentum back to the All Blacks.
The Irish bench, on the other hand, they tried to do a similar thing, but I don't think they quite had the impact that Andy Farrell was looking for. The coaching box was behind me on the match day, and Andy Farrell was not looking very happy throughout the game at all. Jack Conan did provide a bit more go forward for the Irish, whereas Joey Carberry as an individual functioned quite well, but the pairing with Gibson Park, probably not the best. Tom O'Toole, I will give him a shout out for working hard in the tight spaces since he was a late call-up after a illness to Finlay Bealham. But other than that, the Irish bench didn't really do too much apart from allowing Bundy Aki to come off the bench and score. The All Blacks bench was probably a bit more prominent as they were brought onto the pitch a bit earlier on. Zach, mate, are there any other things we should touch on about the performances of each individual player now that this match is over and we're looking ahead to next week?
Probably just what was kind of interesting in this game was you had Earls backing up from the Māori game, so playing a second 80 minutes span in the week. The Irish bench were all backing up for the Māori game. So it'll be interesting to see how with a full week, a little bit fresher they go in the second game. I think they might get a bit more energy off the bench, just purely of the fact of having a full week to prepare.
Oh, absolutely, Zach. I think that as well, guys, what we saw, Andy Farrell was perhaps a bit hesitant to bring them on after they were looking so sore after the Wednesday match. I even had a yarn to some of the Irish reserves who were sitting in front of me in the stands, and they were still looking very much in pain. They must have had a few physio sessions as well after that. Like, I think that the Irish are going to do much better in Dunedin because they're playing under the roof as well. That'll give their decoy runners a lot more opportunities. Whereas I think their reserves as well, as Zach said, are going to be able to come off and be far more dynamic.
Probably the last thing, we didn't rate the coaches, right? But if I was to rate the coaches, I would give Farrell a higher rating.
That's all good, mate. I mean, Andy Farrell is definitely an intelligent coach. Ian Foster, I'm on record with my opinion on Foster. I don't think I have to say much more about it, as I do think there were better coaches available for the All Blacks job ahead of when Foster was selected. So I want to say a big thank you guys to Zach from Hakatime Rugby for joining me for this video. It's been a real pleasure to have you on, mate. Just to remind you guys, do check out his YouTube channel. It is the very best rugby YouTube channel that's out there. And also make sure to support me if you enjoyed this video as well. I'm over on Instagram, celebrating rugby with you guys. I've got my own website rather for opinion journalism, and here I am on YouTube. Zach, once again, thank you for coming on, mate. Real pleasure.
Always a pleasure chatting to you, Max. Thanks for having me on. And enjoy the rest of the rugby, everyone.
Yeah, you too, mate. See you later, guys. Thank you very much.
See ya.